everyone, and welcome to the Latinx Business Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Gomez, and if you're looking to demystify the world of business through the raw, authentic stories of Latinx entrepreneurs, you've come to the right place. As someone with an MBA and an IRS enrolled agent license, I've spent years helping freelancers, partnerships, and S corporations navigate the often tricky waters of the U.S. tax law. Now, I'm bringing that expertise and passion to this community right here. So thank you for tuning in, and you know what? It's time to talk business. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Latinx Business Podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about no tax on overtime pay. So that is a new provision from the OBBBA Act that just went into place on July 4th of this year. And so in 2025, really important, we are not going to have to pay federal income tax on any of the overtime that you work, right? So this is super new in the sense that this never has been really seen in the past in terms of like not being able to pay taxes on some overtime that you work. Now it is on the half, not on the 1 hour and a half of overtime. So what does that mean? So normally when you work overtime here in the US, you have your hourly rate, which could be whatever amount. Let's just take $20 for example, to keep it simple. So $20 an hour you get paid, but if you work overtime, which is over 8 hours in one day, then you're gonna get paid $30 an hour, right? For that next hour you work, not the $20. So you get paid more. Now on the $10 extra that you work, that's what you wouldn't pay overtime on. And I do need to make a clear distinction that it is no tax on overtime pay, but only federal tax, right? You still have to pay self-employment tax, which is Medicare and Social Security taxes. So it's not 100% tax-free, but it's still a good deduction that you'll be able to take on your tax return, right? What that means is that your employer will pay you as regular throughout the year, and then when you do your taxes the next year in 2026, you can claim that credit. Each individual can claim up to $12,500, right? So that's a pretty good deduction that can either bump someone up or down a tax bracket. And if you're married, well, you can claim $25,000 overtime pay that you don't pay federal income tax on. Remember, you still have to pay Medicare and Social Security tax on it. And how is that going to work out? So the first year, 2025, is the transition year, which it's not going to be reported for the most part on your W-2. So your employer is going to have to provide some kind of statement, and those are still being worked out. But with that statement, you go to your accountant or your tax guy or woman or individual, and you request that. You say like, hey, I worked overtime this year and I got paid $20,000 of overtime, and you can take a $12,000 deduction on that. It's an above the line deduction, which is great because it reduces your taxable income, right? But yeah, this is a temporary provision, which means that it's only going to be around from 2025 to 2028, right? So it's 4 years that you'll be able to claim this credit. So 25 tax year, 26, 27, and 2028. So 4 years that you would potentially be able to take a deduction for overtime pay. I know that a lot of people make their total yearly income regular pay plus overtime, and that is actually 100% of their pay for the year, and that's what they rely on to live on week after week, month after month, right? So yeah, this is a super short episode, guys, but let me remind you that we do help clients here, individuals and businesses, to prepare their taxes for the year. So if you guys are looking for a consultation, I do provide an initial consultation that you do have to pay for, but it's a comprehensive consultation. What that means is that I'll review your returns from the prior year or the prior 2 years and look at them, assess them, see if there's any deductions you missed or stuff like that. And then we can also look at your current year questions that you may have. So it's a full hour where you get to ask any questions. No obligation to become a client of mine. You can take all that information and then go do your taxes on your own, right? So I will educate you. Or you can say, hey, I do want to become your client next year, and then we will give you that credit on your next tax return with us, right? So the amount you paid for that, then that gets applied to the next year's tax return. And then next year when we complete your taxes, you would just pay the difference. I think it's a great way to get all your questions answered by a professional, and also you're not like scoundering the internet, AI, and all this stuff, right? Because there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of misleading information. So, I think one of the reasons why I started my podcast, honestly, is because there's just so many questions I get every day from my clients, from individuals that I don't know, or people I meet in the street, and they ask me, what do you do? And, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you this question? And, I'm always friendly. I always say yes, of course, because I've just seen situations where people are misguided, or, some accountants' knowledge is just lacks years of experience or information, for that matter of fact. And I've seen people pay more tax than they actually have to pay tax. Now, you gotta remember, the IRS wants you to pay the exact tax that you owe or that you are due, that's due to the government. They don't want you to pay a penny more, they want you to pay a penny less, right? So yeah, great opportunity for people to sign up with us to do the initial consultation. And right now, the fall, guys, this is the time you would want to do that. So yeah, just, this short episode, super short, but I love being able to give you guys this information. If you work overtime, you can potentially take a $12,500 deduction on your tax return next year and for 3 more years after that. So please look out for that if you do work overtime and you get paid hourly. Now, people who are salary employees, unfortunately, you won't be able to claim that credit because you don't get paid overtime. Your salary is a set amount. However, but maybe your spouse or, right? So a great tool to reduce your tax, and thank you for your time. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your network. Your support helps our Latinx business community grow stronger with every listen, and I truly invite you to connect with us. Send us your questions, your comments, or even your own business stories to randy@rgtaxes.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep building your business, and keep growing your business mindset.